Unit 3 lecture is about infection control, and this can be found in your textbook in Chapter 6. It's really important to understand the terminology, the vocabulary words from Chapter 6 or from the unit, because that's going to be heavy in the test and in understanding what we're talking about in this unit. So make sure you take the time to look over the vocabulary associated with this unit. A microorganism or a microbe is a tiny living thing that's only visible by a microscope. So micro meaning tiny or small, and an organism is a living thing. So this is like a bacterium, a virus, a fungus, something along that line is what that would be referring to. There are two categories of microorganisms. You have a pathogen or a non-pathogen. The pathogen causes infection. The non-pathogen usually doesn't cause infection, and they're all around us all the time. Microorganisms are. If we have a weakened immune system, that pathogen has a chance to get in and to cause havoc in our bodies. But pathogens have to have a certain environment in which they grow best. And this is something you'll want to know for the quiz, because you will see this on there. Pathogens need to have a warm, dark, moist environment with a food supply or oxygen. So if you think about within your body, where is warm, dark, and moist with a food supply? Your bloodstream, your lungs, under skin folds. These are all places where pathogens are going to grow best. There are different types of pathogens. There's bacteria. So an example would be staph infection, Lyme disease, whooping cough. Those are different types of bacteria. Viruses, this would be like the flu, HIV, hepatitis. Fungi is yeast or ringworm, jock itch, that kind of stuff. And protozoa, that is malaria, trichomonas, dysentery. Those are all fall under that category of protozoa. You don't need to know specifically those different things, but it's good to know the different types of pathogens. Another term that you should be familiar with is normal flora. So normal flora is microorganisms that normally live in certain areas of the body, and they don't cause harm as long as that microbe stays where it's supposed to be. So an example would be E. coli in the intestinal tract, or in the gastrointestinal tract. It has a purpose there. It helps to benefit the intestines. But if that E. coli is transferred to the urinary tract infection, then it can cause an infection like a UTI or urinary tract infection. And so it's important to understand normal flora has its place until it's moved somewhere that it shouldn't be. Healthcare acquired infection, these sometimes are called HAIs or nosocomial infections. These are infections that you didn't have when you first went into that place, but you acquired while you were in the healthcare facility. And that some examples of that could be MRSA, C. diff, or VRE, which is vancomycin resistant enterococci. So this is something that you get when you're in the nursing home, when you're in the hospital. Your weak immune system's already weakened when you went in, and then it was transferred maybe from somebody not washing their hands or dirty equipment or something along that line. So these are just the definitions of those abbreviations: MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, C. diff, Clostridium difficile, that's found in the stool. VRE is vancomycin-resistant enterococci. There's also drug-resistant microorganisms, and these are microorganisms. These microbes are mostly bacteria. They are resistant to one or more antibiotics that are used to treat that microorganism. So when those things happen, you have to be very, it doesn't mean they can't be treated. They just have to work really hard to find an antibiotic that will treat that microorganism. And so it becomes more of a challenge to get that out of your body and to treat it appropriately. The chain of infection, this is something you're really going to want to understand fully. It is in your textbook on page 87, and there is a video that I have put in the video section that you'll want to go back and watch that I think really goes over it. But let's break it down, and we'll talk about the different links in the chain of infection. So we'll start first. Whoops. I lost my spot. Sorry. We'll start first with the infectious agent. Sometimes it's also called a causative agent. And this is that pathogen, that microorganism that the body's exposed to that causes the illness. Okay, so we'll use the flu for an example. The next link in the chain of infection is the reservoir. And so this is like the host. This is where that pathogen is growing. It's that warm, dark, moist place that the pathogen multiplies, like the blood or the lungs. This can happen in a person, obviously. So this is your host or your reservoir, the place where that grows. Then there's the portal of exit. How does that pathogen leave that host or leave that reservoir to go out and infect other people? It's through a portal of exit. So with a flu, by coughing or sneezing, right, it's going to leave the body in that way. So that's the portal of exit. Mode of transmission is how the pathogen travels. Does it travel through contact, which is direct or indirect? Does it travel through droplet, which is less than 6 feet or about 6 feet? Laughing, talking, coughing, sneezing, that kind of thing. Or is it through airborne, where it hangs in the air? Then there's portal of entry. And that is how any opening in the body of an uninfected person that allows that pathogen to come in. So the portal of exit's any opening in the body of the infected person that allows the pathogen to come out. The portal of entry is an opening in the uninfected person that allows it to come in. So that's your mouth, that's your eyes, that's your nose. They tell you to keep your hands off your face. So, you know, when it's flu season, you don't want to be biting your nails. You don't want to be rubbing your eyes. These are portals of entry in which that infection can get in. And the final thing is the susceptible host. A susceptible host is a person who is at a higher risk of getting that infection, that can't fight it off, okay? And things that make you a susceptible host would be high amounts of stress, not enough sleep, poor nutrition, being elderly puts you at a higher risk. Breaks in the skin, poor nutrition, dehydration. So you do want to take care of yourself and manage your stress and manage your body and your health so that you're not a susceptible host. So make sure you take time to really fully understand each of those terms. There are many questions on the test that refer to the chain of infection, and also go and watch that video because that's a really great resource to go back over the things that we just talked about.